So you are trying to decide between Facebook and LinkedIn ads for your next big opportunity for your business. You're like super pumped to get more into paid advertising because you know that it's powerful. It's a great way to scale your business, but you can't decide which one to go for. So I'm going to answer that for you in this video. Why me? So I've already been doing paid ads for many years now. In particular, Facebook and Instagram I've had the longest history with, and LinkedIn ads have become a much bigger thing over the last year in particular, as they've really upgraded their software and the options available for a person trying to advertise through that channel, and they've just grown a lot bigger as well. So firstly, what's great about Facebook ads? Let's start there. So firstly, to be very clear, it's Facebook and Instagram. So when I talk about Facebook ads, that's the whole channel altogether. And firstly, it's huge. There is many billions. The fact that we can say multiple billions of people across Facebook and Instagram is ridiculous when there's only 8 billion of us on the planet today, as of recording this video at the very least. And that means that there's a huge amount of data and there's a huge amount of people to basically outreach to. So even though there's a lot of people doing Facebook ads in different formats, there is so many people to target that actually you can still very comfortably find large niches which are not yet overly competitive and become ineffective for your paid advertising. We know this because we have a countless number of clients at this exact moment who are finding great return on investments from Facebook ads. Not only that, but the other biggest favorite part for me is the platform itself. So Facebook really has innovated in the marketing techniques that it offers for the software, where obviously there's demographics, psychographics. People come to me and they say that they want to target women who are 30 to 40, etc., etc. Those are okay, like they can be good for you to judge, but the reality is psychographics are often much better, and the psychographic is just literally people's personality, their interests, and all these kinds of other more fluffy things. But what Facebook does really well is it uses this extremely large amount of data where it discovers the nuances of a person beyond what they even know for themselves. And I don't know if you've seen the Netflix documentary, which is spectacular, that sums it up perfectly. Facebook is constantly, and many others are doing the same thing in their own way, creating this kind of puppet version of yourself and trying to understand how to pull the right strings of you as an individual to know what you love, what you hate, what you need in your life. And so actually what you really want to be doing with Facebook is letting it do its thing. So you use things like lookalike audiences, where it uses the algorithm to say, okay, we can see, thanks to the Facebook pixel, exactly who's gone through to your website, made a purchase. And as long as you've got enough of those, then you can actually create lookalike audiences. So people that went from the website back into Facebook and say, who looks like that person? Let's find the 1% most like that person within Facebook today, and let's promote to those people. So you're optimizing for people that actually convert, rather than in the old days, which would be optimizing for people that just clicked on an advert. So you got lots of clicks, but that's all you got. You didn't get as many sales. So that's one of the things that I loved about Facebook. And LinkedIn, the two big things: one, it's B2B focused, and it's very clearly B2B focused. So if you're a company looking to promote a B2B service or product, you have way more data about the business lives of every single user in that network. So you probably know this for yourself. In Facebook and Instagram, especially Instagram, Facebook, maybe you put in the company that you're working at, but you probably didn't update it for the last few years. Maybe it says a job from a year or two ago. Maybe you do keep it up to date, but even that, it's relatively basic information. Whereas with LinkedIn, it's just a standard practice that you have to give them your company that you're working at, the job title that you've got. You very often keep it much more likely up to date, and you're much more detailed with it as well, a lot more like specific keywords around the kind of work that you do for each particular company and all the rest. So this is why LinkedIn can be really good for the B2B side. So Facebook has all this data about, what movies you love, like what girl you're staring at all the time, and all of this kind of personal stuff. LinkedIn has the business stuff. So LinkedIn, if you're trying to basically target around that, can be much more effective for that reason. And so if, as a really good example for this, if you're trying to target CEOs of banks around the world, Facebook will just not have that much data. Like if you literally search for like job position of CEO in the finance industry, you'll get a very, very small result. In comparison to LinkedIn, you'll actually get a pretty significant number of people that you could target to. So you can be more targeted in that direction. And the other thing I'd say is LinkedIn, compared to say Twitter, compared to say many of these others like Snapchat and TikTok, LinkedIn is leading the way alongside, it's definitely behind Facebook significantly, but it is catching up quickly in terms of the complexity that it offers. So it has its insight tag, which is basically the Facebook pixel, and that does the same thing of following that user into somebody's website, going back to LinkedIn, and then we can optimize the ads around that. So for lead conversion, for example, is the common one that you'd be doing. So LinkedIn is catching up in that space too, and that's the other big thing I love about it. So which one's right for you? So I think the key here is to just ask the right questions. So the first one is, what kind of audience are you actually looking for? So are you looking for, if you're basically doing B2B, you very likely might find some really good kind of like pools of users and interests that have shown an interest in whatever, banking or something. And so your SaaS app for banking is actually perfect for that. So one of the big questions to ask yourself is, what kind of audience are you actually trying to attract? So if, for example, you have a SaaS tool that's really good for marketing managers in the B2B space in finance, for example, so that situation, you'll be able to find more people specifically who are marketing managers from the finance sector compared to Facebook ads. So that's like a really big reason why you might like to use LinkedIn in that particular situation. Or maybe what kind of audience you might have, it could be more age-based, like maybe you just have a younger audience, or maybe you have an audience where it's more about the kind of person rather than the work that they do in the day-to-day life. And so Facebook and Instagram has more of that kind of personal life information about their personal loves and joys and interests. So that could be a better direction to go. So there's lots of good questions to ask, and just think, who are you trying to pull in, and ultimately, find your audience. That's always the game with all paid advertising altogether. The other big question is, what kind of product or service are you actually looking to sell? So is it especially high ticket item? Is it visual or not? Both of the networks are relatively visual, but Facebook and Instagram have more possibilities with visuals, so they can do a little bit more types of ad versions of ads. But LinkedIn has things like the sponsored in-mail. So you can do an in-mail, you can even start conversations within in-mail and ask someone a question and things. So if it's more of an informational type of service or product, where it's more of a technical conversation with somebody rather than like a sexy video of somebody traveling or something, then that could actually work a lot better for you to just start that conversation with CEOs in the finance sector, or for example. And price is also important. So just thinking about, it really depends massively, is the annoying answer to give you, but Facebook and LinkedIn can both do well with high and low ticket items, but generally speaking, LinkedIn is more expensive. So you will more likely want to be using a higher ticket item to basically be able to make more money from each conversion to make it worthwhile to afford that higher price. So yeah, that's probably my last kind of like notes to mention on this is, remember, you might not know this yet, LinkedIn is a lot more expensive. So the average cost per click is considerably higher than with Facebook. And so you ultimately, if you're going with numbers and you need to getting lots of conversions, then it's harder to get that with a good return on investment with LinkedIn. But the key is, cheaper is not always better. So Google is a lot more expensive than Facebook, but Google can do much better sometimes than Facebook with paid ads, because there's much higher search intent within Google. And in the same way, within LinkedIn, it's more expensive than Facebook, but with LinkedIn, you're more likely, from what we've seen at least, to have a higher quality of conversion, because people are already within LinkedIn, they're in their business mindset, they're thinking about business solutions. And so when you give them one of those, they're more likely to be interested, and you've also got more data to target the right kind of people. So while it's more expensive, that's for a reason. And that's basically because LinkedIn is more B2B focused. So for us, for example, if you're advertising a marketing agency that's very competitive and there's a high return on investment for each conversion that we might get, so we're okay to spend, £5 to £10 a click or something. Whereas if you're selling a £10 item, you can't be spending more than say like £1 a click. Otherwise the conversions would have to be really good to make that work. So ultimately, Facebook, massive, has an amazing platform to use. LinkedIn is growing very quickly and also has a pretty good platform. There's more data in terms of the personal life with Facebook and Instagram, but there's more data in terms of the business life within LinkedIn. These are some of the big things to think about. If you're still unsure and you don't know which direction to go, Google Ads is the other big one to remember. But get in touch, leave a comment, let me know what you're thinking of. Have you got involved with LinkedIn ads yet? That's the most common one that people haven't even tried. We do this professionally, so if you need someone else to take this over for you, we're always willing to help. My agency, Snowball Creations, I'll put the link for that in the notes of this. And I wish you luck as ever with it.